Hi to our listener, viewer, wherever this finds you. Welcome to the WIT podcast. It's a special day. I'll tell you a funny little backstory on why we're actually recording this episode today, but please join me in my enthusiasm in welcoming Sydney Day Weikart. We've actually already done a sort of a podcast episode before this. It was not her fault. It was my fault, a technical issue. And so we're here today. We have both agreed that we're going to find a silver lining in all of this. I think this is totally the day that we were supposed to meet and connect. And I'm going to let you tell them why, Sydney. What happened today?
Today was we launched my Forbes article.
Yay! Like 2 hours ago.
Yes.
How are you feeling? Let's just start there. How are you feeling with that?
Like I did not think that the response would be this crazy, but I have received a lot of support. So really excited, really grateful, got a lot of really nice messages. And so many people were like, that was an amazing author. You know, how did you meet with her? I'm like, well, you can find her on Instagram. It was a little collab. It was so fun. It's been a good day.
Oh, I love that. So let's just bring the viewer list. Well, this will be more for the viewer up to speed. I did write an article about her, but do you have any of your products nearby? Because it'd be kind of fun just to kick off showing the products that I was writing about, because Sydney Day, she goes by Sydney Day in her business, yeah. Sydney Day Design, that has a stationery business. And I found her online. I think that's how I really, sometimes I just forget how all the things happen, but yeah. What I know for sure is it was the right meetup and the right person. Mm-hmm. And I loved her product, and just visually, I loved it. And then as I got to know her, her work ethic really aligns with what I believe is WIT. And she felt like a perfect guest for the podcast. But can you show them any stationery designs that you have around you so we can, because we mentioned them in the article, and let's mention them here too.
Yes. So I put a little stack together of my favorites. This is the Smiley To Do notepad. Love. And it sells for $9.99, as well as the electric polka notepad. And then one of my most
so clever polka notes. That's cute.
Yes, I know. It took me so long. This is the Grind Time notebook. It took me so long to think of because it was my first notepad. I launched it. It's coming up on 8 months now ago. And it took me so long to think of a name because it's, it's very eccentric. So yes. I didn't know what to call it, but electric polka seemed perfect. So that's what I settled on.
And is the Grind Time, when you open it up, are we getting the line so that we can just kind of write in what we want? How is that going? Oh, perfect.
Grind. Mm-hmm.
Lovely. And tell us the price range of your products.
So for the 4x6 50 sheet notepads, they're $10, and then the Grind Time notebook, and then the bigger notepads are $14.99, and the Grind Time is $12.99.
So there's a lot to chat about today, because I do want to get into the products, because it's going to look like for people, I mean, you're in Forbes. It's kind of fun because during our other podcast, I couldn't introduce you that way as somebody who has been featured in Forbes. So this feels perfect. So to everybody listening and watching, sometimes mistakes and setbacks are just setups for something better. And the goal on the WIT podcast is to leave you with at least 2 tangible things that you can use in your life, one for business, one for personal. And so that's why we're going to talk to Sydney about the creation of Sydney Day Design, and also just hear a little bit more about the setbacks and successes that she's had, because there are some that come along the way, and we're not going to pretend that there aren't. But let's go. This is a stationery company that did not start as a stationery company. Tell us what you started with.
So the first product that I sold was greeting cards, and I started my business in, I would say, late November, December of 2018, when I was 13 years old. And I had this love for calligraphy and, bullet journal, just artsy kind of things. So I figured using what I had as a 13-year-old, which was Amazon and some Crayola markers, I just made some greeting cards with blanks off of Amazon, and that's kind of how this entire thing started. And then since then, it's actually developed into more of a stationery type business with notepads and notebooks and things of that sort.
I think it's important for people to hear that sometimes where you end up isn't obviously where you started. Obviously, that can mean that literally, but in this case, and even in my own business, I started as a TV show idea, and now I have an international nonprofit. You had greeting cards. Now it's a stationery company. You also, if I remember correctly, during doing some of my research on you, that you landed your first big client, I guess I would say, at a kids fair, right?
Yes.
Tell us that story.
Yeah. So, Mr. Hart, he is so great. I was 14 at the time, and I went to a children's business fair type thing in my area. And I was at my booth, and he came up and we had a little conversation about my business. And later on we were in contact via email about his podcast, Trailblazers FM. And I actually created some greeting cards for him as thank you cards for his guests for coming on the show. So it was such a fun experience because it was like a big bulk order for me. Like I was really excited about it because someone believed in me enough to order, that amount of greeting cards. And also because it felt so legit. Like it wasn't just, friends and family ordering, which of course I so appreciated, but it was someone else. And it was like, wow, this guy really believes in me. This is so cool. So it was such a fun, uplifting experience. It gave me a lot of confidence, to say the least.
That is, gosh, it doesn't even matter how old you are. That is so important. It's the moment where you get the breakout from just friends and family, and it's somebody where you have no connection with, is following you, downloading this podcast, reaching out to learn more. And you're like, oh my gosh, maybe there's something here.
I know.
And so I think I remember you saying that it took a lot of time to make those greeting cards that you were. Did you think it was going to take that long? I mean, that's always a moment too, when you agree to a project and then you're like, oh my gosh.
Well, at that point, I didn't care. I did not care how long it took me. I would have stayed up all night if I had to, creating those. But it was such a good learning experience because I had to, be professional and, exchange emails. And as a 14-year-old, that wasn't really something I had to do with anyone besides my teachers at the time. And it took me hours among hours to make them just because they were handmade. So I was sitting there and my hand was getting really tired. My pens were getting dried. I remember going to the craft store with my mom to get like his logo colors and the pens that I used. But at the time I was in the middle of the TV series Parks and Rec. So it was okay. I made it through. I was binging Parks and Rec the entire time, and that's how I got through it.
Okay, that is an incredibly relatable moment, and I'm curious. It'll be fun to hear what viewers and listeners binge while they're working, because a lot of young entrepreneurs are going to listen to this podcast, and even as an adult, I have shows. I mean, there are different projects that I relate shows to. Like, when I was working on that project, I was like, I'll binge like Law and Order SV, which is not a really like happy show. I think I just like that it always concludes in something that usually they catch the bad guy. But I've done Parks and Rec. I've done The Office. Like, I mean, I've lost track of how many times with The Office. So very relatable that you have something on in the background as you're working hard. But tell us how you made the transition from greeting cards to the stationery, the notebook, the to-do.
So at the time, I was being very professional about it just because that's the right thing to do. I'm going to be transitioning into, a more stationery based business with these products. I didn't even know exactly what I was doing. Behind the scenes, I was like, I mean, I found this website that I could make a notepad on, like, try it out. So I eventually got in contact and was able to like reach out to manufacturer and kind of work together on some new products. And it was just so cool for me because whenever, like to this day, when someone asks me what's one of your favorite parts about running your business, seeing my products come to life. So the first time that happened was so cool because it was something that I just drawn on my iPad that came in the mail. And I was like, wow, this is a actual tangible product. Like it was like my child almost. I was so proud of it. But
it's so normal.
It was so exciting. And honestly, I don't remember like the exact day that I switched over. I probably launched it like day of because I was so impatient at the time. But I just remember launching that and moving into things like stickers. And I don't know, it felt right. Like I didn't have any doubts about what I was doing. I felt more like, I don't know, connected to my products. I was happy with how they were turning out. It also felt more like me, rather than just ordering some greeting cards from Amazon and using like a brand's pen to do it, to do like designs and things. Like I love doing that, but this is, it's my product, which was so exciting for me. And I think that's another one of the reasons that I stuck with it as well.
What do you say to the teen who thinks I want to start something? What would you say to them?
Just do it, honestly. Like I know that's such a vague piece of advice, but I think, as long as you're eager and passionate and excited to do something and what you're committing to, then there's no reason you shouldn't do it. Because you never know what's going to happen. If you would have told me that I was where I am today, I would have laughed in your face and been like, who are you? Like, what? So it all really depends. And I feel like, even if it's not successful in whatever that means for you, or if it's not making hundreds of thousands of dollars and doing all these things, it's a learning experience, and that's really valuable. So as long as you're taking something valuable and fulfilling away from it, there's no reason you shouldn't do it.
I know, isn't it? Sometimes it's easier said than done. I mean, that's why we have it's called do WIT, do whatever it takes. I mean, that you say, just do it, just do WIT. This idea of if you really want to try something, that I would say, and then I'm going to ask you what you think it is. I think the biggest things that stand in the way of us starting, which, hey, I'm not saying you're going to go from like today, you're going to create the business of your dreams. If you were to, listen to this podcast and then go, I'm going to go start, manage your expectations of how long it takes to make progress. But I think the two biggest things, and I'm going to speak from experience of when I have felt resistance to starting something, it's usually because this is what I grapple with. I'll grapple with, who am I to think that I could do fill in the blank? A great response to that is, who am I not to do that? But sometimes it gets a little scary. Fear that it will be successful and fear that it won't be successful. Both of those have different things wrapped up in them, I believe. And I don't have this anymore. I definitely had this when I was younger, was like, what are people going to think?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, is that a big thing for you? I'm older, obviously.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that when you get older, everybody listening, especially our teens, there's no like magic age that all of a sudden everything just like clicks and you're just totally confident. I mean, I used to think when I'm an adult, I'm just going to get it. I'm an adult and I'm still figuring things out. So just let me tell you that. But so what do you think are the biggest things, or what's come up for you when you've started something?
I think, like you said, it is, for teenagers, for kids in general, just that, what are my friends going to think? What are my parents going to think? What is my grandparents going to think? Like, this is so unlike me. Like, but I mean, they're, if they're really your true friends, they're going to support you the entire way. So, as much as that's scary for some people, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's something to think about. But, you know, I've definitely had my fair share of challenges and bumps in the road. I think that in general, when you put yourself out on social media, like we were talking about, you know, I put my personality, my
Mm-hmm.
business, my, you know, the thing that I'm most proud of, out for everyone to see. You know, anyone who wants can see it. And, you know, I've never really struggled with the, like, oh, like, what are people gonna think kind of thing for people I don't know. Like, I'm like, I don't really care, you know, if you don't like it, like, okay, whatever. But definitely, like, the, you know, kids at my school, like, I don't know, like, what are they gonna think? Like, is this odd? And, you know, looking back, the biggest thing for me was getting over the hump of having like 100 followers and not really being taken seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, I mean, I probably wouldn't even take myself seriously back then. Honestly, just because you know, from what I've learned now and where I am now, it's a lot different. But in general, just the looking back and thinking, like, I'm doing the same thing now as I was then. Like, I'm running the same business, but I just wasn't being taken seriously because of the amount of followers I had. And, you know, that's really not okay because, you know, it's, I mean, my friends have stuck by me the entire way. They're still here. I don't know how, but I think in general, looking back, you know, one of the biggest things I've learned through whatever setbacks I've gone through is that you're more than your followers, you're more than your sales. It's what your brand is. It's what you value as a brand, as a person. You know, it's how you react to certain situations and how you handle other situations that make you who you are and make your brand who it is. So I feel like, you know, even though I've definitely got a lot more hype from people now that I am in follower growth where I am, I truly like look back on my past self and think it's been me the entire time, you know, as long as I believed in myself, you know, I made it this far, right?
I think that's so good. I mean, I think this idea, we talk about this in the organization that I run, WIT, about living in alignment, that who you are, like that your words match up with your actions is living in alignment, that who you are online is who you are offline. There's no confusion. When a teen meets me in person, there's no confusion. It's what it is. And if a parent meets me, or if you see me on social media, it's accurate. What I present there is who I am. I'm selective though too. I don't always share everything in my personal life because there are some things that I think are personal. And I'm curious with you, how have you decided what to share and what not to share?
Yeah. Great question. I am, you know, despite what a lot of people think, I'm very introverted. I'm not, like, online, I present myself pretty confidently. Not to say that I'm not confident as an introverted person. But online, it's just me, and I'm confident with my brand. I'm confident with the content I'm putting out there. And kind of that sends a message of, you know, I'm extroverted, I'm outgoing, I'm really, you know, I want to talk to everybody and involve in everything. And in a way, I do think my business has made me more outgoing, just because I have had to be in situations where I'm talking to, you know, companies and adults, and, you know, I'm in real business situations. But, you know, as a more introverted person, you know, socially, at school, at sports, things like that, I always kind of had this very like thick line, like, this is what I'm going to share and this is what I'm not going to share. I don't really want to, you know, it took a while for me to show my face on my account, just because, you know, I was a little embarrassed at first because I wasn't being taken seriously. And, you know, looking back, maybe I didn't have that self-confidence that I thought I did. And you know, not sharing things, you know, completely personal. I like to share a little bit about myself, like on my website and on my social media. I run cross country. I'm a sophomore in high school, things like that. But, you know, and just enough so that people can get to know me without me like oversharing, because it's not like, you know, it's not like everyone's my best friend on the internet. Like I'm not going off and telling everybody everything, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But I think for me, there's always been this very distinct line. Like I feel like I have a solid judgment of what I do and do not want to share, because I don't want to seem like an exclusive person, because I'm very much not. But I also want to just, you know, let people know who I am and what my personality is, because, you know, then they're going to connect with you and your brand and your products and all these things. And I kind of learned that along the way. And it does help to create that trust. You know, because like I said earlier, like as a teen business owner, it's really hard to be taken seriously. Is it a scam? Is this, you know, is this real? Like, are her parents just doing this?
Totally.
Like, you know, such common assumptions. And as much as it's painful to see that happen, you know, creating that trust was helpful when I showed my face. So, but like I said, there's always been this line and, you know, distinct judgment of what I do and don't want to share.
That's healthy. It's healthy to have those kind of boundaries, and really normal to the listener watcher. If you're a teen and you're hesitating showing your face, that is very normal. I work with adult entrepreneurs who get like, oh, it's easier for me just to put the product out in front and then just kind of hang out back here. But people buy your story. They're interested in who you are. They want to know what you're about. And that's really important when you're building a business, is to find the line of how much you're going to share, how much you're going to keep private, but really consider that people are buying into your why and into who you are. And I'm thinking about, there's this farm this woman that I follow, and she runs 5 Mary's Farms. And I bought her story first before I started buying her cookbook and her food, because I just loved what they were doing. So think about that when you're out there, teen entrepreneurs, building your thing. How can you give them a little bit of you while you're still building your confidence? Because it's super normal. I know, I mean, I haven't known Sydney for very long, but I know for sure that she did not have the confidence back then that she has today. So it's super normal to build that up. And along the way, as you build your online presence, you're going to encounter positives and then you're going to encounter some negatives. So I say on the podcast, we address homework and hustling and haters. I like it. I like an alliteration. We've talked about that.
Yes.
And because those are all things that you're dealing with in high school. So you had a reel that you created. Super normal. You used the voice of the Real Housewives of Atlanta, I believe.
I didn't even know that until you told me. That's the sad thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I just thought it was some random audio.
That's where it was from. And it was just a harmless voiceover about like, people wonder how I can do everything that I do. Yeah. That's what people wonder as a teen entrepreneur. You post it, you kind of starts to blow up, and positives and negatives around like just what we said earlier. Who do you think you are? Like, who does she think she is? Those are very normal things, everybody that's listening. Like that is a reality. There are people that are going to be jealous and going to hate and going to try to take you down. The thing that I can say to everybody listening would be, just right now, don't be that person. When you see other people being successful, know that their success just is proof that you too can experience success. It doesn't take away from you having success in your own life. But tell us, how did you navigate that when you saw the hate coming through? I'd love for you to give some tips to our listeners.
Yeah. So, like you said, I had a reel. I think it's at about 800K right now. And I actually had to turn the comments off because it was pretty brutal. And it started blowing up one day. I was super excited that it was blowing up. I had never really had that huge blow up experience before. And, you know, I think I had reels get to about like 20, 50, maybe 100, 200, 300K. That was about the max. And so when this reel kind of got above 300, 400K, I was like, wow, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And I started getting so much love, so many followers and all this, you know, so many views, and everything was going up. I was so excited. But as the views came in and as the engagement came in and as the positives came in, so did the negatives. And the negatives were really starting to outweigh the positives. I remember getting, you know, tons of likes, but also tons of, you know, unkind comments, just people who thought that I came off in the way that I did not intend to come off at all. Really didn't think this was going to go outside like my couple thousand followers, but it did. And people questioning, you know, who do you think you are? What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, are your parents just doing this? Like, what's, you know, stop talking about yourself like that, or stop bragging, stuff like that. And it just kind of got worse and worse. And it was not good for my self-esteem or my brand
Mm-hmm.
confidence. But, you know, as someone who's putting my my business out there, my passion out there, I just have to understand that that's going to happen. And as long as, you know, a tip would be like, establish who you are, what you're doing, what your brand is, have that really solid, so that when someone asks you like, who do you think you are? Like, what do you think you're doing? Hi, I'm Sydney. I'm 15 years old. You know, go ahead, tell them. You know what I mean? Like, you know, they asked you, like, tell them. And I think that that's the best thing you can do is, you know, just kind of go at it lightly, take it professionally, not personally. And in those situations, you know, ask for advice from friends, family. If you want to, just turn off the comments. That's what I did.
Healthy.
Anything, just let it go over your head, because it really doesn't have to be crazy, a crazy big deal. It doesn't have to be, like I said, a big deal. As long as you know, like I said, let it go over your head, and it'll all work out in the end. It's just a phase.
Yeah, they probably heard the background. I have a mutt, a dog who'll probably make an appearance on the pod at some point. But he was protecting the house. So that was jarring to the listeners. I understand why it was to me too. I think it is really important to acknowledge that, like, the turning off the comments is very healthy. It's a healthy, you don't have to just be open to it and rise above. You can also take the mic away from somebody who's coming into your house, which is your page, and say, you're not welcome here. I also would love to see, I mean, it's not even worth the time, but to everybody that posted something along the lines of, who do you think you are? That you're like, I'm Sydney, founder of Sydney Day Design. Exactly. I'm Sydney, founder of Sydney Day Design. And now you can be like, I'm founder of Sydney Day Design, featured in Forbes. Because here's the deal.
You are.
I mean, it's very important to me, as somebody who uses all of my platforms to amplify the teen voice, that I just, so that the listener and watcher knows, like, I'm vetting the people that are coming on here to make sure that they're people of like great character, because that's really what it's about as an entrepreneur. Is when you're a teen, you're probably starting the first of many businesses that you're going to run. This is probably not going to be the thing that you're going to run forever. So it really should be about, during this time, figuring out who you are, your values, what you stand for as you run this business, and learn about yourself in the process of running it. If you would have, I'm putting you on the spot here. Well, the whole thing is Sydney's on the spot. I don't give questions on the podcast. If you could put your company's values, like in three words, what does your brand represent? What does it value?
I need some time to think.
That's fine.
In general, you know, as a social media based business, and as someone who, like, I really consider myself a big part of my business. I'm the one communicating with customers. I'm the one engaging with followers. So some values that I want to express, that I see in myself, you know, that I want to push out through my business. I hate talking about myself like good, but I try to be really kind through not only, you know, talking with customers, but engaging with followers.
You can say that with confidence, Sydney. You don't have to.
I feel so I don't know.
This is good. This is, I am putting you on the spot. It's very healthy to do this, to understand, like, so kindness is a core value for you and your company. And that shows up in how you handle customers. It shows up in your products. For those that don't know, her products are environmentally friendly. That she didn't start out that way, but she eventually got there. So that's kindness to the planet. Okay. So kindness is a value. What else?
I don't really know if this counts as a value, but if it does, I would say growth. I don't really, it's so hard as a teen because I didn't start out with like a full-fledged business plan. I didn't start out with thousands of dollars to invest. And I kind of just watched my brand evolve around what I wanted it to be, which was really cool. But, you know, having people understand that my products are going to improve as I go on, my, you know, my communication skills, you know, me as a person, like I'm still improving. I'm only 15. I don't even know what I'm doing yet. So I think in general, just like growth, you know, becoming a better brand, like you said, whether that be through, you know, making sustainable swaps or improving products or, you know, making sure that I'm incorporating new things into my business, you know, just having that idea of improvement all the time and growth is also really important to me.
Yeah, evolving matters to you, making sure that you're not stagnant as a person or a brand, and that you don't want others to think that this is what it's always going to be, that you're constantly in forward motion to improve, which is great because people, I think, are attracted to the brands who are taking that approach of who I am today could be different tomorrow. But what's going to stay the same is that like your core values of kindness, that really is your core value, and that everything's kind of coming out in your art. Cause I feel like when I think about your artwork, I mean, you throw something up right now, throw the smiley faces up, like the brand is kind, like,
happy.
It's happy. There's like a joy. There's a joy to it. So to the listener, have fun figuring out what your values are. I think it's really helpful to know what your values are as a company and as a person, because it makes it really easy, or easier, I should say, to say no to things, to know what to say no to and what to say yes to, because you're putting it through this filter of the values. And you're like if someone were to come to you, Sydney, and it was a brand that wasn't meeting you at your size or beyond to like do a collab, you probably wouldn't do it because that's out of alignment with where you're at right now, which is about growth and expansion and evolving.
Definitely. I've totally had experiences like that before. I get asked a lot by smaller accounts to do collaborations. And, you know, it's hard because like, I don't know, you know, I have the capability to say, you know, no, thank you so much. But I like I said, I try to very much show kindness in what I'm doing. So me saying no is like, oh my gosh, like, are they going to hate me? Like, what am I going to do? All these things. So I kind of had to overcome that, and I'm in a better place now. But I've had offers for like partnerships with brands and apps and things like that. And, you know, I feel like I try to bring the best value to my audience. And I mean, one time I had this really big brand reach out to me, and they were like, can we send you like our teeth whitener for you to promote for X amount of money? And I was like, while X amount of money would be nice, like my audience does not care about a teeth whitener, you know what I mean? So keeping things like that in mind has also helped me to kind of develop my brand and myself and my morals, like you said.
So let's talk about that real quick. Let's talk, because what does success mean to you and look like to you? That's something else that people should understand. Like, it's going to be different for everybody, what success looks like. I don't believe it's always a dollar sign at all. Obviously you don't either, because you would have said yes to that and just taken the cash and put the teeth whitening thing up and was like, if anybody unfollowed you, you'd be like, whatever, I'm laughing all the way to the bank. I got this. So what does success look like to you right now as a person and a brand?
That's a really good question. I'm so glad you asked, because It's changed, honestly, within the past month for me. I always tell people nothing happens overnight, but as an exception to that, I was very, very lucky to receive a lot of love on my account in a very short amount of time. I launched about 10,000, 15,000 followers within a very short amount of time. And I'm not saying I didn't work hard to get there. Yes, I did. I'm just saying that not everyone is able to kind of blow up like that, if you will. So for a while, to me, success looked like 100 new followers every day, or, you know, this much money in sales, or, you know, improving from last month's sales, or, you know, things like that. And while I really loved that kind of growth and it was really rewarding, I started to kind of like crave it. I didn't really think that there was any other sort of success. I thought, you know, my brand has been successful because I have engagement, because I have this many followers, because I'm bringing in new people. So there's no other way that it's going to be successful. Like, I don't see how else I'd be successful. But recently I feel like I've hit a huge standstill in Instagram growth, in engagement, in sales, and everything. It's been a real bump in the road. And, you know, as the kind of person that will do anything and everything to get back on the road to success, it was really frustrating for me when I tried literally everything and nothing worked. So I was just like, Sydney, like, this is unhealthy. Like, you're starting to compare yourself to other people. You're starting to compare your brand. You're starting to lose your passion for creating things. Like, this is not, you know, you're going down a dark road. So I kind of redefined my image of success. I started to bring more color into my brand. I rebranded. It was like a refresh. I redid my website. I started focusing on the reasons why I started my business in the very beginning, which was because I loved doing calligraphy and I love creating things. And so once I started bringing that back into my business, and I kind of fell in love with how my feed was looking and how my graphics were evolving and the things I was learning, I don't know. It made me think that it doesn't have to be all numbers to be successful. I don't know the last time I looked at my follower count. It's not important to me anymore. Not to say it's not important, but it's not a key part of what I'm branching my success off of anymore. So something that I'm still adjusting to, but I've kind of been able to like redefine that definition of success recently. And I mean, honestly, it's helped me a lot to be happier with where I am, because I'd rather be happy and, you know, not growing than unhappy and not growing, you know what I mean? So I kind of had to make that decision. And yeah, I don't know. It's been good.
Thanks for being so honest about that, Sydney. That's real talk. I mean, that is wrestling through that. Oh my gosh, my identity was wrapped up in this thing. I talk a lot about this idea of when you get there, you'll be happy, but there's no there. The marker keeps getting moved. So it could be, I'll be happy if I get 10K. Oh, will you? Or will you want 15K after that, or 20K after that? And so if the happiness is always based on external things, then that's going to be bumpy, because so I say control the controllables, which is exactly what you did. And I love that. You just dropped right back into why you started this whole thing, for a reason, like the reason that you started this whole thing. I think it almost sounds like you fell back in love with it, did a nice refresh of it, which is probably also like a refresh of yourself, like mirrored in the brand. You come out, I mean, when was that refresh?
It was February 6th, so pretty much a month ago. But this past month, honestly, this past couple of weeks, has been the major switch for me.
That's so interesting, because I don't even know the date that I reached out to you. I'd be wondering, I mean, it had nothing.
I was really excited. It lifted me up a lot.
Isn't that interesting? Because I had no idea what you were going through. And it just, that's really interesting. What were you going to say? I can tell you're going to say something.
Yeah. You know, the other thing is I feel like, when you said, you know, I didn't know what you were going through, like, nobody does. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
try to be open and honest. But I'm not talking about my growth all the time. Like, I know that doesn't feel good to people who aren't growing. And now I'm in that place. And I think a common misconception about my business and about bigger Instagram businesses is that we're constantly growing, we're constantly bringing in new followers, and everything always goes right. But the truth is, everybody hits a plateau. And so while you're sitting there comparing yourself to me, like, I'm sitting here comparing myself to someone else, like, it's just a chain. And, you know, everyone is different. And so many things are so different about everybody that I've just kind of learned, like, you know, I can't control it. So there's no reason I should sit here becoming stressed out about it. You know what I mean? But, you know, as I think when you hit 10K, you can no longer see the like 9,200, 302, like you can see the exact number. So you can't see that on my account, but I can. And I don't know. It's kind of been hard to like tell people that. And, you know, obviously I've been able to talk to my friends about it, my teen entrepreneur friends. But in general, I think it's never a good idea to assume anything because, you know, it's never what you think it is. And everybody struggles with something. So you never know.
And the life of an entrepreneur, I mean, it is, I don't think it matters. I mean, I've been working with teen entrepreneurs now for over 10 years. Yeah. I am an entrepreneur. And I also, I mean, obviously I have I have entrepreneurship friends and entrepreneur friends. And we are sometimes so in the thick of it that it's like, I mean, it can look like we haven't showered because we're like working on a really big project, or we haven't worked out how we would normally work out, or we're not feeling our bodies how we normally would. Because working on your business can kind of become obsessive at times. I'm sometimes okay with that because I've learned that this is a pattern that I have, that sometimes I get like really into something. Like right now I'm really into getting the podcast ready and getting all our episodes ready for the launch. So it makes sense. I'm also very excited about that. But I have to make sure to have a balance in my life. And because I really could just do this all day. You can't because you have school. I really do this I do this all day. But let's give our listeners and viewers just a couple tips on how we, and you can decide if you want to go first or I can go first, how we know when it's time to take a break and what we do to refuel and fill our own cup, put the oxygen mask on ourselves. What do you want to go first, or what do you do?
Yeah. So I think in general, I sit down every morning and I make my to-do list on my to-do list. And it's very, very long and I've got lots of things to do. And everybody's like, Sydney, why are you working so much? Like my friends will be like, can we hang out? And I'm like, okay, so these are when my meetings are. And oh guys, I have to get on a call. Like, they're like, okay, whatever. Like, they're used to it by now. But I don't know. I'm such a workaholic that I get so like lost in things and I don't realize that oh, like I haven't drank any water today. Like, totally. Oh my God, did I like miss my run? Like the things that like make me so happy, like going on my runs or talking with my friends need to come first. And for me, if you don't mind, I have a little mini story tangent.
I love a tangent. Go for it.
So I remember I think about to hit 10K on Instagram, rapid growth, growing crazy amounts. And I thought, I worked really hard. I'm going on a family trip this weekend. 2 days, I'll be off of Instagram. Let my followers know. If you need anything, please contact me via email and I will help you that way. So I closed down Instagram. I had my friend check on a couple of things for me just to make sure everything was going okay. And I was just like, you know what, this is great. Like, I'm just relaxing. I'm hanging out. I was a little like jittery because I'm like, where's my phone? Like, do I need to post all these things? Like, no, I don't. But I needed to accept that, like, I can't just completely work the entire time. Like, I need to give myself a break. And it was so nice mentally for me because I was able to clear my head. I came back better. But when I came back, my growth was stunted. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, why did I take this break? This was the worst decision ever. Oh my gosh, like, I should never do anything for myself ever again. And it was kind of hard for me to leave that place because I never took a break after that for months and months and months. I never took a weekend off. I don't think there's one day where I didn't post something to my story, to my account, anywhere. And it wasn't like obsessive. It was just like, I don't know. It was normal for me because I was working towards a goal. And, but I was so scared. I developed that fear of, you know, what happens when I go away for a weekend, you know what I mean? So I started burning out because, you know, as anyone would do if they didn't take a break for like 4 months. So I started burning out and it was frustrating. And in the end, I just realized
I think I lost you, Sydney. Are you there? Yes, we did lose her for a moment, but she's back. And I was just telling Sydney that it's fine. The listener can figure it out. The viewer can figure it out. It's a tech issue. I intentionally want the Do It podcast to not be perfect. Well, first of all, perfect is all like relative, but also it's just what it is. So we might clean up in post-production, we might not, but here we are. So you left us in suspense. You were saying, so tell us, finish the story.
So I think in general, I've just learned that, you know, it's never a good idea to prioritize something, like, even if it is my business, which I care so much about, over my own mental health and my own well-being. And I learned that, you know, like I said, over the past few months and weeks here, like, I haven't been as active. I haven't been posting all the time, but, you know, I've been able to, you know, get involved in other things and, you know, start to reconnect with the fact that online school has taken me so far away from reality that I kind of needed to reconnect with my school and all my friends. And I don't know, it was just, it's been nice to kind of take a break from it because I know it's still going to be there. And it's been hard to come to terms with the fact that, you know, next year when I go in person for like junior year, it's like I'm not going to have a lot of time to do anything. So I just think that taking a break is always the best idea. I have learned that the hard way, and now I know that it's okay. This weekend I'm going out of town. I'll take a little break. You know what I mean? Because in the end, like, I'm happy with where I am. I've accepted where I am. I've accepted the path that I'm on, and I've accepted that my growth isn't going to look like everybody else's. And, you know, I can't control that. So I'm going to control what I can. I have a good friend, Natalie, and she always tells me when I'm starting to stress out about, Natalie, I haven't gained anything. Natalie, I didn't get any sales on, you know, just, you can't control that, Sydney. Like, focus your energy into something that you can control. And it's such good advice because, you know, it's true. And it's so sad how much time I spend stressing about things that are out of my control. But, you know, in general, it's taught me so much, my business in general, and just that experience. You know, it's always a good idea to take a break. It's never a bad thing.
Yeah, I would say you control the controllables. That's all you cannot control what people think about you, feel about you. You can just, whenever I'm feeling like really overwhelmed with things that are happening with WIT or the podcast or YouTube channel, whatever the thing is, I just come back to, okay, what is one thing I can do right now? Just one action step that I can take. A lot of times as entrepreneurs, our dreams are so big, and it's also like our vision is so clear about where we want to be and where we want to go, that in the moment it can feel so overwhelming as to like, well, what do I do? What's the next, how am I going to get, I know one of your dreams is to get into Target, right? How am I going to get to Target today? Well, you're not going to get there today, but it's like, I say the actions that you take today set you up for the tomorrows that you say you want to have. I always tell people, well, you say you want to have this kind of life or a dream, but are your actions today lining up to that? Yeah. Or are you just, and hey, some days I just binge watch shows because that's an act of self-care for me.
Yeah, me too.
Move my body. So to the listener, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I check in myself. Have I moved my body? Have I had food? Am I hangry? Have I had enough water? And have I laughed, like fully laughed? And if I really haven't, then I try to find a friend who wants to grab dinner or go do something, because being around people who just love me for who I am and don't need anything from me and aren't impressed by anything except for that they think that I'm a cool person, those are your people. We are coming up on time. Well, I mean, I guess we can do whatever we want over here at the Do It podcast, but we can just do whatever we want, whatever it takes. But I want to make sure that we respect our listener and viewer and their time, because that's such a wonderful gift that you've given all of us today, to myself and to Sydney, by hanging out with us today. And we hope that we hit our goal of giving you at least 2 things that you can go apply. We're going to do a quick recap. I want to hear from Sydney. Like, what are your 2 things that you would advise people to use? Maybe something that a tip in their personal life and in their business life right now.
So I know I mentioned this last time, but I kind of like to mishmash those together, as I've done in my own life. And, we rebranded my saying last time. That I have to bring up. So credits to Miss WIT. So I think prior to this, it was my 3 big topics were patience, passion, and hard work, but that didn't rhyme. That wasn't alliteration enough. So perseverance is the new replacement of hard work.
Yes, we like alliteration over here.
Yes. So in general, I like to say that you have to start with passion. Obviously, you have to be passionate about something. You got to be a go-getter and get excited for what you're doing. If you're not excited to wake up and, create your passion project, then it's just a project. What's the fun in that? And then perseverance, I would say, is next, just because you have to continue working very hard for that. You have to persevere through the hard times. You have to understand that nothing comes overnight, nothing comes easily. You got to use your resources, learn and grow, and understand. A really big thing for me has been just accepting where I am. It's always like, where am I going to be tomorrow? What am I going to be doing? Like, yes, looking to the future is very good, but I have to understand that right now I am where I wanted to be yesterday. I spend so much time looking on, like, how can I do this? How can I be here? What am I going to do tomorrow? Like, good job, Sydney. Like, yesterday you wanted to be here and here you are. Like, take some time and give yourself a pat on the back for that. But back to my my little mantra, I think the last thing is patience. Like I said, nothing comes overnight. It's not going to come naturally to you to run a business or start an organization, especially as a teenager. And understand that you're going to learn and grow, and you can apply those things to your business, your project, whatever you're working on, or your personal life. And that's something that I've been working on is, yes, I've applied these things to my business, but how can I take that into my day at school, my day at sports? What am I doing for myself? Things like that as well.
Okay. Passion, patience, perseverance. We love this here. Perfect. I love it. Perfect. The 3 Ps. Sydney Day Design. I'm already seeing a notepad with these things on there, like some design of some kind. Okay. So for me, to the listener and the viewer, something that I'm going to think about what we've chatted about today, and something that I would love for you to go take with you. Your worthiness is not connected to a number. We've talked about that today with like follower count, dollar amounts, sales. So as you start your entrepreneurial journey, or wherever you are in your entrepreneurial journey, if you're feeling emotionally, maybe you're feeling sad or down that you are not hitting the numbers that you want in your bank account or your followers, I would encourage you not to tie that to your worthiness and worth as a person. Easier said than done, but that's what I would love for you to take a tidbit that I'd like you to take away. And also I like to kind of think about everything that we've chatted about and what I think would be really valuable. Figure out what your core values are as a person and as a business. I think it's super helpful to those listening and watching. When you have that dialed in, you really start kind of feeling a flow of what you say yes to, what you say no to, the collaborations that you're willing to do, the products you're willing to put out there, the programs that you're willing to run. So I think that's what I'd love for them to share. And to the listener and viewer, please comment below if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening, let us know. I mean, we'd love to hear, based on this conversation, what your takeaways were, because that's helpful for us. I mean, both myself and Sydney want to make sure that we valued your time and gave you something worth using and going to do WIT in your own life. We're going to end with some rapid fire questions so that you got to go like this. So we're going to give them okay. Are you ready? This is just a fun thing for our listener and our viewer to just get to know our guests a little bit more on the end. And you might be thinking that you have some things in common with her already, but just wait until you hear this. Again, she has not heard these questions. I even mixed them up from our last podcast where we had the
I'm impressed.
the mix up. So a couple will be the same and some will be different. Favorite go-to movie that you could watch over and over and over again?
Oh my gosh. I can never do this. Harry Potter. It's classic. I love it.
Okay, Harry Potter. Go-to song when you need to get yourself in a good headspace and pump yourself up.
I'm going with the same thing. Just Don't Stop Believing.
Don't Stop Believing. Good message. Good takeaway for today.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Favorite activity to do if not working on your business? That's not business related. Favorite activity
is my business.
I know. I'm trying to get you to not.
I'm gonna say running. Going for a run.
Okay. Going for a run. Okay. Favorite snack?
White cheddar smart food. 100%. Smart food popcorn.
I used to love that when I was younger. Oh my gosh, I haven't had that in a long time. Favorite color?
Green.
Where are you living right now?
In Virginia, in my parents' house.
And what's the name of your business?
Sydney Day Design.
And what are you grateful for right now?
Right now, in the moment, obviously, like we talked about earlier, very grateful for the launch of the article. I'm grateful for the support that it's received and for the amount of support and love from the community, our local community, our friends and family, and I'm so grateful that I was able to work with you on this. I had such a fun time and it was so valuable to work with you. So very grateful for that.
That's so sweet. Thank you for hanging out with me on the pod today. Again, but
so fun. Take two.
Take two, and I think it's even better. So setbacks are set up for something even better, everybody. Thanks for listening. Go do WIT. We will just wave goodbye. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Do WIT podcast. If you got something valuable from this experience, which I hope you did, please feel free to share with your friends, comment wherever you're listening to this or watching this. And also don't forget to follow along on Instagram at Do WIT Podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Do WIT Podcast. And also just remember, your ideas matter. You're never too young to make a difference. Just keep doing WIT.